à Nairobi, en passant par tous les autres pays. Je suis ici, j'espère qu'on viendra à Djibouti pour faire un reportage également sur les réussites qu'on a à Djibouti. Et c'est moi qui aurai la responsabilité de modérer le panel qui va commencer tout de suite en rapport avec l'innovation et technologie, mais également le développement des talents en lien avec les zones économiques spéciales. Ce panel aura un certain nombre de panélistes, notamment le CEO de Port Community Systems of Djibouti. Est-ce que M. Bou est là? Je pense l'avoir vu. Très bien. Je vous prie de bien vouloir l'accueillir par des ovations, mesdames et messieurs. M. Warsama Mohamed Bou, CEO de Port Community Systems of Djibouti. Il nous dira tout à l'heure ce qu'il fait et comment est-ce qu'il développe également des talents, mais également comment est-ce qu'il utilise les technologies pour rendre compte de son travail. Nous avons également le Center of Technology and Innovation in Djibouti, représenté ici par son CEO, M. Samatar Abdi Osman, mesdames et messieurs. Le Centre de technologie et d'innovation de Djibouti, représenté par son CEO. Donc vous voyez à peu près dans quelle dimension on est en train d'aller. Hein. Voilà. Donc, on a une société qui utilise des technologies en rapport avec le port. On a un centre de technologie et d'innovation, donc qui fait de la formation. Et puis le prochain intervenant, il est vice-président de l'Union de la jeunesse panafricaine, Monsieur Ba Bokar, VP. On parle de formation, on parle de jeunesse, et c'est extrêmement intéressant qu'on ne soit pas seulement limité au niveau régional, mais qu'on ait un intervenant qui peut parler au nom de la jeunesse du continent. Et puis, bien sûr, nous avons le représentant d'une zone économique spéciale, Monsieur Francis Gitane. I called your name in French, I'm sorry. Manager of the Special Economic Zone Authority in Kenya. Welcome, sir. Okay, the next on this panel is anyone who can have a place. Okay, the only place left over is mine. Mesdames et messieurs, alors le sujet de ce panel, on va le faire en 30 minutes parce que vous avez pris trop de temps pour manger. Donc on va raccourcir le temps pour permettre aux autres panels de se poser. Donc on a une demi-heure. Le sujet c'est Innovation, Technology and Skills Development in ZES. Ce que nous allons faire tout de suite sur ce panel, c'est de se poser une série de questions. La première, est-ce qu'il y a de la technologie, de l'innovation sur les zones économiques spéciales que nous avons? On va voir le cas Djibouti. Donc je sais que l'autorité ici djiboutienne est représentée. On va voir le cas au Kenya et on va voir comment ça se passe, premièrement. Deuxièmement, on va voir est-ce qu'on peut avoir des zones économiques spéciales dédiées à l'innovation et à la technologie. Deuxième question. Et là, on va s'adresser donc aux représentants du Kenya. Ensuite, on va voir comment est-ce que ces zones économiques spéciales permettent de faire 2 ou 3 choses. La première, de créer un élan, un momentum en faveur de talents dans le domaine technologique. Deuxièmement, comment est-ce qu'ils arrivent à participer à la formation de ces talents? Et troisièmement, qu'est-ce qu'ils font en matière de contenu local? Et sur ce point, on verra comment est-ce que d'autres entreprises en dehors des zones économiques puissent leur vendre des services qui sont dans le domaine de la technologie. Voici à peu près comment on va conduire les échanges. Je suis heureux d'être avec vous. Alors, OK, I wanted to make sure you had your headset, but it's OK. Première question, avant que je retourne à ma place, je vais l'adresser au manager de la zone économique spéciale, de l'autorité de la zone économique spéciale du Kenya. First question for you, sir. I will ask it in French, and the translation will take over. Quelle est la situation dans votre pays et qu'est-ce que vous faites concrètement en matière d'innovation liée à vos, ou à votre, en tout cas à vos zones économique spéciale. Qu'est-ce que vous faites en matière d'innovation? Première question introductive et ensuite je m'assois. Merci.
Okay. Thank you for that question. For introduction, as I've been introduced, I'm Francis Gitao, working with Special Economic Zones Authority in Kenya. And again, as a country, we're running Special Economic Zone collectively under EAC, and to us, innovation, science and technology is a very critical aspect of SEZ. In fact, to us, we don't see innovation and technology as a means for industrial development only, but we also see it on its own right as a sector that can help us onboard investments. So to that effect, as we recognize manufacturing, trading, logistics as special economic zones, innovation and technology is also recognized within its own right as a special economic zone activity. To give you a more practical example, in Kenya, one of the zones that is gazetted as a special economic zone is Konza Technopolis, which is purely a science and technology park that is there to help us as a country to attract onboard domicile industrial investments that are around innovations, technology, creation. This 5,000-acre Konza Technopolis is situated 60 kilometers south of Nairobi, where we are running a model that is supporting both research, innovations, and industrial production. So that as a core zone within our SEZ that enjoys the same set of incentive manufacturing and logistics are getting. So they get the same tax breaks, they get the same administrative incentive that they operate with the same single license as manufacturers operating, and also get all these tax breaks and advantages like any other investment. So to us, innovation, science and technology is a critical aspect. Another example I want to give is another zone that we're running again in Kenya called Two Rivers International Finance Innovation Center, where we onboard investors who are keen to invest in issues of fintech, technology, BPOs, services, and all the other services that are purely service in nature and are not manufacturing in any way. So those are the examples that we have. And on the other side, again, we have a deliberate move by the government to see how we can onboard these critical careers and critical on-job training for investors to invest in SEZ. So one of the critical installations that we have in all our zones is to ensure that we have centers of excellence where we offer training to the youth to take advantage of the SEZ as it is.
Thank you so much. Il y a un mot qu'on utilise, qui est très utilisé notamment, je vais rester avec vous, qui est très utilisé notamment dans la transformation de pays comme Singapour, c'est l'expression centre d'excellence. Et là, il vient à peine d'utiliser la même expression centre d'excellence. Donc, on va rester avec vous pour savoir que signifie l'expression centre d'excellence.
Okay. So basically what we're doing in Kenya, again, is we have both public and private SEZs. We understand the issue around capacity building might not really be private sector centric in a way that private sector will want to do. And by so then in all public zones, we ensure we have a center where we offer short-term trainings for individuals to take advantage of the zone that is there. So in all our public zones, you will see there's an element of private sector, youth training, on-job training so that they can take advantage of the zone. Other than that, then Konza is the main area where we expect a lot of industrial training for our youth to take advantage of the SEZ program. So we've taken it deliberate as a government to do that. The other aspect of that is we've revitalized all our village polytechnics and TVET institutions to make sure that we can fill the gap of this other unskilled labor. The people will be doing the masonry works, the civil works within the zones, because as you saw even in Djibouti, the zones we're talking about, the industrial cities that are coming up, integrated investment cities. So there are jobs that will be created there from basic unskilled labor that will be involved in the development, the initial development, to the very best critical skills that will be required to run the industries.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Alors, ce que je comprends, un centre d'excellence, c'est, si vous voulez, un environnement où on peut avoir le meilleur au monde, que ce soit en matière d'infrastructure, en matière de support, en matière de talent. Donc, on s'arrange pour fournir à ceux qui viennent investir ou s'installer les meilleurs services et les meilleurs talents possible au monde, mais ici sur notre continent. Voici comment je comprends ça. Je veux venir maintenant vers vous, Monsieur Bou. Vous allez nous expliquer ce que vous faites avec votre compagnie. Il s'agit de du Port Community, Djibouti Port Community System. OK?
Yes.
C'est ça. Alors, qu'est-ce que vous faites concrètement, et puis en quoi est-ce que c'est en lien avec le port?
Okay, thank you. The way we see it is that we have the ports and we have the free zones. These platforms, logistic platforms, are connected, providing services for customers importing and exporting, whether they are in Ethiopia, beyond, and in Djibouti. How we use technology and innovation to connect all these different infrastructures to provide a better service for these customers that may not be in the country itself. Hence the creation of Djibouti Port Community System to provide facilitation to digitalize services or to digitalize all the different processes linked to importing and exporting through airports, ports, and rail and corridors and road corridors. We started with the ports, digitalizing all these different services that the logistics or the customers, importers, exporters, may need from the port, to get their goods out. Then obviously you have the free zone. Any type of transformation, storage, all logistic services happening in the free zone are also using this service, this facilitation service. Beyond the import-export processes, we have also facilitated the process of creating companies within the free zone itself, using the platform, creation of companies, registration of workers with the social services, visa, all these different services, administrative services for the creation of company are also digitalized within the same platform, yes. Whether using logistic services or whether you even need administrative services for your own company, both are digitalized in the platform. But recently also, we have gone beyond simple facilitation of trade and logistics to provide intelligence on trade for the investors. For those who want to invest in this region, whether in Djibouti or Ethiopia, we have been gathering a lot of information, data, for the past 5 years. Now we're able to guide you in your investment processes, procedure. For example, if you want to invest in steel, we can show you the capacity of the market, the volume imported in the region, for you to help you in your investment decisions. And we are also going beyond Ethiopia. Currently, we have the humanitarian cargo passing through Djibouti to South Sudan, yes? And we are also connected with Kentrade, the Kenyan equivalent of DPCS, the single window in Kenya, to exchange information on the importers and exporters that they have over there. We are interested in improving the intra-African trade through these type of platforms that we have, whether single windows or port community system, and to connect these different markets. So We have today our traders that are very knowledgeable when it comes to Eastern markets. They can tell you everything about the market in Guangzhou, in Shenzhen, in Shanghai, but when it comes to buying from another African countries, they cannot even name 10 exporters. So this is what we want to resolve. Yes. So the aim being that whether the goods are being transformed in Kenya or even Rwanda, recently also we have connected with the private sector in Rwanda. They are very interested in the investment in Djibouti. They have the government has allocated land here for Rwandan private sector to invest in, and also Djibouti has also land in Rwanda. So we had the private sector, whether in Djibouti and Rwanda, a bit hesitant about these different markets, about investing in Rwanda or even investing in Djibouti from their side. So how we can bridge that, we have connected with them and to exchange trade information. We have data on what is being imported in our region, and we requested from their side also information on what they have or they are importing. And through the LC Cargo initiative, there is also an opportunity to trade with landlocked countries. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Bou. Alors, qu'est-ce que ça a changé et qu'est-ce que la mise en place de cette plateforme, donc de cette technologie, a changé dans la façon dont les opérations se font et le commerce se fait via les ports et les zones économiques spéciales? Qu'est-ce que ça a changé?
Based on the feedback we got from the customers, especially the customers in Ethiopia, I'll come back to the customers in importers in Djibouti. For the Ethiopian customers, it has provided a better visibility. As you know, when it comes to logistics, it's all about planning. And the more accurate your information, the faster you can react, you know? And if you have your containers inside a port for a very long time, the price can go very high very quickly, you know? So having access to accurate information have helped us improve the logistics in Djibouti, between Djibouti and Ethiopia. And by providing this transparency to the final customer in Ethiopia, we are pushing the private sector to regulate itself. So the private sector in Ethiopia can see what is happening around the cargo in Djibouti. They are pushing their logistic providers through the contracts they have, and this visibility and transparency has improved the logistic efficiency of between Djibouti and Ethiopia. When it comes to the Djiboutian importer and exporter, a lot of the Djiboutian importers, exporters have a lot of confusion when it comes to the processes linked to the ports, to freight forwarders. They don't know what is happening. They don't know how to go about it. And the system has provided, I would not say transparency, but that has clarity. Yes, absolutely, that's the word. Clarity on the processes and how they can do it. For example, a specific example, in the free zone, most of the time, due to confusion around the processes around the port, they used to give the jobs, I would say, of bringing the goods into the free zones to the freight forwarders. But now, due to the simplicity of using this type of platform, they are themselves carrying out these type of activities, whether requesting the port fees from the port, finalizing the booking to bring the goods out, and even being connected itself to the transporters. If they need a transporter, they can easily check it from the system. Yes.
Merci infiniment, Monsieur Bou. Alors, pour ce que je comprends, c'est qu'ils ont réussi à mettre une plateforme technologique qui facilite les activités portuaires et dans les zones franches, qui fournit de la clarté quant aux différents processus et qui aide même à faire un certain nombre de procédures en ligne. Et donc, ça permet un gain de temps extraordinaire, notamment avec le transfert de la documentation, qui souvent est un obstacle dans les procédures portuaires. Monsieur Osman, Abdi Osman, vous êtes le CEO du Center of Technology and Innovation in Djibouti. Alors, quelles sont vos activités? Qu'est-ce que vous faites?
Tout d'abord, first of all, I want to thank the organizer. If you allow me to speak quickly about that, thanks for the Secretariat as well as Ministry of Commerce to having us. Je vais changer de parler en français parce que nous sommes à Djibouti sinon. Donc, pour répondre à votre question, nous travaillons essentiellement sur, depuis ce matin, on parle de talents, donc former les talents de demain, parce que lorsqu'on parle de zone économique spéciale, lorsqu'on parle de transformation, il faudrait accompagner cela par des femmes et des hommes. Je trouve que les femmes manquent à ce panel, mais on va essayer de se rattraper par les questions peut-être. En tout cas, c'est faire en sorte que ces projets puissent se tenir. Pour cela, il faudrait mettre des programmes de formation adaptés, contextualisés à nos avantages et comparatifs. À Djibouti, nous travaillons essentiellement sur tout ce qui est technologie, donc formant les jeunes au codage, très jeunes, donc des plus petits, c'est-à-dire de l'âge de 6 à 12 ans aux adolescents en passant par les professionnels. Nous essayons aussi de les accompagner à travers des programmes ciblés, adaptés. Donc la technologie étant un moyen et non pas une finalité, l'idée c'est de promouvoir l'innovation et la technologie pour porter et catalyser des programmes. Qui plus est, des programmes qui s'intègrent à peu près dans les programmes structurels d'un pays comme Djibouti, qui, depuis ce matin, est mis en avant de par sa position géographique, de par ses, on va dire, ambitions. Mais si je reviens au contexte du panel, c'est que on parle de zone économique spéciale, on en compte à peu près 200 en Afrique. Il y a à peu près une trentaine, il faudrait féliciter nos amis kenyans au Kenya. Et la plupart font face à plusieurs défis structurels, et notamment le capital humain, parce qu'une zone économique spéciale doit être portée, comme je l'ai dit tantôt, à travers, ça pas juste des programmes dédiés aux investisseurs qui viennent, qui font leur business, mais ils doivent, en tout cas cette zone doit porter les économies dans lesquelles elles sont implantées. Et si vous faites le comparatif dans l'index de l'innovation de la technologie, c'est pas par hasard si les pays anglophones sont les mieux placés, c'est parce qu'ils ont mis très tôt le focus sur ces zones économiques spéciales en mettant même en place des zones économiques spécifiques. Il en a parlé tout à l'heure.
C'est votre cas au Kenya? C'est
le cas au Kenya, mais la majorité sont généralistes. Le Maroc aussi a des zones économiques spéciales dédiées à tout ce qui est automobile, qui requiert un peu de la haute valeur ajoutée en termes de capital humain. Je pense qu'il y a beaucoup à faire dans ce sens, et l'idée c'est que la compétition mondiale dans laquelle l'Afrique s'insère, elle a besoin non pas seulement des zones économiques spéciales physiques, mais aussi des zones économiques sociales en virtuel qui peut apporter la plus-value à travers la solution que des PCS met en place. On n'est pas obligé d'être dans une structure physique ou dans une zone économique physique si on veut mettre en œuvre tout ça, mais de par chaque zone, l'interopérabilité des solutions, je pense qu'elle est très importante. Et pour ce faire, il faudrait que les moyens soient mis en avant dans la formation, dans la formation, comme je le disais tantôt, très tôt, pour qu'il y ait ces talents qui puissent porter ces projets-là. Après, les défis sont aussi nombreux, parce qu'il y a toujours la spéciale mise en avant dans une certaine zone géographique, tout en n'ayant pas la relation avec l'interland, en tout cas l'arrière-pays. Donc la dualité ville-rurale est très criante, mais également l'aspect qu'on néglige souvent, c'est l'aspect aux autres, l'accès à l'énergie, parce qu'une zone économique spéciale a tous les moyens, sans que, par exemple, dans ce pays-là, le pays en question ait tous les moyens technologiques qui puissent porter un peu l'économie. Donc la formation, il y a la formation qui sont spécifiques. Après, il y a l'interopérabilité, tout à l'heure je parlais de cela, et il y a des outils qui sont maintenant mis en place à travers, par exemple, la FinTech, qui est une technologie qui permet de catalyser les échanges entre les biens et les personnes. Donc là aussi, il y a des challenges, parce que toutes les zones économiques spéciales ne sont pas liées entre elles. Donc un des aspects qu'il va falloir travailler à travers la roadmap en tout cas de cette volonté de la ZLECAf, c'est aussi faire en sorte qu'il y ait un single market en Afrique, mais qui passe par des zones économiques interreliées, tout en mettant en avant, bien sûr, le développement endogène porté par les filles et les garçons de telles zones économiques. On parle de smart zones économiques spéciales, mais en amont, il faudrait aussi penser à former, détecter ces gens pour qu'ils puissent, en tout cas, répondre à ces défis-là. Et les défis ne sont pas... voilà, ils sont nombreux.
Merci beaucoup. Vous gardez le micro. Évidemment, nous sommes à une conférence internationale, donc vous pouvez parler soit anglais, soit français, soit arabe, soit swahili. Hein. Ça dépend de vous. Vous êtes libre de choisir la langue qui vous convient le plus, ou bien sûr, je dis français. Est-ce que vous avez le sentiment, avec les personnes que vous formez, qu'il y a des débouchés pour ces élèves et étudiants dans les différentes zones économiques spéciales qui sont mises en place à Djibouti? Est-ce que vous avez le sentiment?
En fait, le défi, tout à l'heure, ça a été dit dans un des panels. Je vais revenir à la question, mais si vous prenez de manière holistique, il y a à peu près 3 millions de personnes qui, chaque année, arrivent sur le marché de l'emploi en Afrique. Donc, maintenant, le gap entre l'employabilité et les opportunités existent et sont réelles. Ça veut dire que ce n'est pas uniquement pour Djibouti. Je pense que c'est un cas que tous les écosystèmes africains partagent. Maintenant, pour que le gap soit résorbé, il va falloir que les formations en amont, c'est-à-dire dès l'enseignement de base et l'enseignement supérieur, soient très tôt adaptées au contexte pour faire en sorte que les débouchés soient réels. Souvent, ça travaille en silo, ça ne travaille pas de manière intégrée. On a vu tout à l'heure les questions-réponses dans le panel précédent. Les jeunes se demandent si effectivement ces zones économiques spéciales, effectivement, concrètement, emploient des gens locaux. Le gap existe partout. Maintenant, pour justement faire en sorte de réduire ce gap, je pense que le numérique, c'est un atout indéniable. Donc il faudrait que la vision des zones économiques spéciales soit vue comme tout à l'heure on parlait des zones centres d'excellence, mais en tout cas une zone d'innovation. Donc, quand vous êtes dans une zone d'innovation, vous avez la collaboration, la co-création de solutions entre tous les acteurs. Ce n'est pas uniquement l'investisseur installé dans une zone franche qui amène des opportunités. Les opportunités peuvent être aussi menées par un secteur privé, par des jeunes de l'écosystème en question. Et voir une zone économique spéciale comme un hub d'innovation avec les ouvertures d'esprit, l'aspect open innovation, c'est-à-dire amener des projets contextualisés, peut faire en sorte que les investisseurs qui sont dans la zone franche aient un impact concret dans l'écosystème dans lequel ils sont. Le terme, c'est là, l'écosystème, ce n'est pas une zone fermée. Hein,
donnez-nous un exemple d'impact d'une société installée dans une zone franche sur l'écosystème à l'extérieur, mais en rapport avec les technologies, l'innovation et le développement des talents.
Tout à l'heure, on parlait de la fintech, c'est-à-dire qu'une solution peut être menée par des opérateurs, en tout cas technologiques sur place, et peuvent amener des besoins nécessaires à la dite société d'investissement qui arrive concrètement sur la place à Djibouti ou dans une autre zone économique. Et cela, il n'y a pas besoin d'amener avec eux les personnes, en tout cas de l'extérieur. C'est-à-dire que l'offre est sur place, moins chère puisqu'elle est disponible, et les échanges peuvent être menés. Voilà. Donc, par exemple, il y a une solution qui a été menée à Djibouti qui est WAFI, qui est menée par une banque de la place. Cette solution, c'est une plateforme électronique. Elle est interopérable dans la sous-région, par exemple. Donc, elle permet de fluidifier les échanges. Ouais. Et c'est un peu ce qu'on met en œuvre à travers une plateforme qu'on a mis en place qu'on appelle Djibouti FinTech Forum. C'est une plateforme, c'est un forum où tous les acteurs de la place échangent et parlent pour renforcer les échanges. Donc, une solution qui est interopérable ou qui permet d'avoir des échanges depuis Djibouti, la Somalie, le Kenya, c'est tout le mal que l'on peut souhaiter à cette enclave, que depuis Djibouti jusqu'à Dakar, que du Maroc jusqu'en Afrique du Sud, il peut y avoir des échanges entre les différentes plateformes. Ensuite, chaque zone économique a aussi les incentives, c'est-à-dire les axes, enfin tout ce qui est des taxations, tout ça. Mais si en plus il y a des talents qui sont là sur place, ça peut permettre à ce que chaque zone ait des avantages comparatifs par rapport à cela. L'attrait de Djibouti est spécial dans ce sens, Djibouti étant un pays, un hub naturel. Donc tout à l'heure, ça a été dit, si en plus de son attrait géographique, ses incentives fiscaux, etc., si Djibouti peut aussi pourvoir en tout cas des solutions créées localement pour des contextes locaux, je pense que c'est un bénéfice, en tout cas un bénéfice, et c'est tout l'enjeu de ces zones économiques spéciales, parce qu'une zone économique spéciale qui, de manière, en tout cas, qui n'est pas en synergie avec une interland et une zone géographique donnée, elle ne remplit pas son rôle. Et je ne pense pas que ce soit l'objectif du marché commun qui commence par une zone locale, qui s'extend dans une région et ensuite va sur le plan continental.
Merci beaucoup. Alors, je comprends que rien n'est facile. Hein. Apparemment, tout est difficile. On peut faire de bonnes choses. On commence, on avance et on se rend compte que, attention, il y a des interconnexions qu'on n'a pas trouvées par rapport aux sociétés locales, il y a des interconnexions qu'on n'a pas trouvées par rapport aux jeunes, il y a des connexions qu'on n'a pas trouvées par rapport à l'emploi et à la formation, et au fur et à mesure, alors donc tout ce qui est bon, il faut toujours avoir des occasions de parler comme ça, donc merci à la ZLECAF de nous réunir pour qu'on mette le doigt sur les choses qu'il faut développer. Je le dis pour faire une transition avec Babocar, vous avez écouté, vous qui portez la voix de la jeunesse au niveau africain, ces acteurs du secteur privé qui se sont exprimés sur la question de la technologie en rapport avec les zones économiques spéciales. Qu'est-ce que vous avez à dire ou à leur dire ou à nous dire?
Merci, monsieur le modérateur. Je suis très content de se retrouver à Djibouti, discuter sur la libre-échange économique, qui est une actualité qui permet à cette jeunesse africaine d'être indépendante, autonome et œuvrer pour le panafricanisme, l'Afrique que nous voulons. Et l'Afrique que nous voulons ne doit pas être un rêve, mais une réalité constructive, mais ça se passe par la culture de l'excellence, la technologie, l'innovation. L'Afrique ne manque pas d'innovation, ne manque pas de compétences. Ce qui manque réellement, c'est la politique intègre. La politique intégrante qui permet à cette jeunesse africaine d'être au cœur du cerveau du développement de l'Afrique. Il faut pas seulement la politique, mais la concrétisation de la politique qui permet à ces jeunes d'avoir les compétences, l'innovation, l'attention particulière, les partenaires et aussi le respect de leur savoir-faire, le savoir-être pour la construction de cette Afrique. Dans la stabilité, l'économie, l'Afrique pourra se développer. Et pour cela, il faut responsabiliser cette jeunesse africaine qui ne cesse d'innover, qui ne cesse de tenter d'innover, qui ne cesse de créer, d'apporter, contribuer, parce qu'elle veut juste répondre à l'appel de l'Afrique que nous voulons. Une Afrique démesurée, une Afrique délimitée, une Afrique intègre, une Afrique où on peut circuler librement, une Afrique où on peut aussi innover et vendre son produit dans les différents pays africains. Et cela, il faut une réelle politique et une prise de conscience de nos autorités puissent nous accompagner. Et aussi les partenaires, soyons fiers de ce que nous avons à partir de n'importe où en Afrique, de Casablanca, de Johannesburg, de Djibouti, de Nairobi. Aujourd'hui, l'agence africaine n'a rien à envier aux Européens, aux Américains. Mais il faudrait que nous laissons cette jeunesse s'épanouir, cette jeunesse montrer réellement ce que nous pouvons faire. Nous ne sommes pas là en train de commander, nous ne sommes pas là en train de demander, nous voulons juste participer, contribuer à l'économie réelle de l'Afrique. Parce qu'on doit avoir aujourd'hui une monnaie africaine, on doit avoir un passeport africain. Si tu innoves, tu crées, et tu n'arrives pas à vendre de l'autre côté, c'est parce qu'on est freiné, on est limité, et on doit avoir cette délimite. On ne doit pas seulement une exonération des taxes, exonération de fiscalité. Non, on doit aller au-delà même. Parce qu'il faudrait que nous ayons une marque africaine. J'ai entendu une marque djiboutienne. Oui, Made in Djibouti, mais Made in Africa. Il est temps que nous quittions cette complexe. Il est temps que nous ayons aujourd'hui la fierté d'être africains. Parce que tout se construit en Afrique. On nous dit longtemps l'Afrique est l'avenir du monde. Mais l'avenir du monde se joue en Afrique. Nous avons toutes les économies mondiales pour développer, construire cette Afrique. Et aujourd'hui, si nous arrivons à avoir une monnaie africaine, chers modérateurs, un passeport africain, nous faisons partie dans la course mondiale. Mais tant qu'on n'a pas une monnaie africaine, une course africaine, pour voyager même en Djibouti, il faut aller en Asie, aller en France, en Europe et revenir en Afrique. Il est temps que l'Afrique décolle. Quand est-ce que l'Afrique doit décoller? Quand est-ce que? Il est beau dire, quand est-ce que? On ne peut pas attendre 2063. Quand est-ce qu'on doit prendre cette responsabilité de construire cette Afrique? La libre-échange économique, 49 pays ont rectifié. Mais on doit aller au-delà. C'est de toucher réellement ce qu'il faut. On ne peut pas attendre de l'Asie, de l'Amérique, mais l'Afrique doit décoller. Et c'est la responsabilité de nous. On a innové, on a des start-up, on a des PME, mais on veut être accompagné. Nous devons être indépendants et autonomes. Il nous faut cette bonne politique. Mais tant qu'il faut voyager en Afrique, il faut aller en Asie, il faut aller en Europe, on est encore loin du développement.
Merci. Merci infiniment. Ah, c'est ça, hein, quand on a les jeunes, ils mettent la pression, hein, il faut aller vite, il faut produire des résultats. Merci infiniment. Alors, je reviens à vous au Kenya. Qu'est-ce que vous envisagez comme technologie? Aujourd'hui, on a parlé de la 4e révolution industrielle avec tout ce qui est IA, robotique et tout ça. On a envie également d'être à la pointe en Afrique avec ces nouvelles technologies. Quelle est votre expérience? Est-ce que les zones économiques spéciales, dans le cas du Kenya, nous montrent l'exemple d'un effet de levier sur le développement de ces nouveaux talents, ou alors est-ce qu'on sent aussi le besoin de ces nouvelles technologies dans les zones que vous gérez?
Thank you once again. So for Kenya, yes, we acknowledge that the 4th industrial revolution will be around technology innovations and the Internet of Things. And to that, yes, we have an elaborate program around how we want to harness that going forward. I want to give you a case, an example. The Konza city I'd referred to. The 2 main investors who are already there is one, the Open University of Kenya. The second one is Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, which is mirrored from the Korean Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. Those are already built up. We starting operationalization this year. So that is how keen and ready we are as a country to see how we tap in terms of technology and innovation to grow our economy. So that notwithstanding the fact that yes, we acknowledge there'll be manufacturing, there'll be trading, there'll be logistics, but the government is very keen to see that in the areas of innovation, technology, we are better positioned to take advantage of that. So there is a deliberate push by the government to see that we do the research around STEM in Konza. Within the 5,000 acres, we have an area dedicated for innovations, for the innovators. And then from the innovation sub-zone, then it moves to the production. So in this, we're looking at all those sciences, from biological sciences to physical sciences, to the IT and Internet of Things, and how that fits into the productive sectors where we expect as a country to create the meaningful, sustainable opportunities for Kenya. On another end, we have a very strong business service BPO Association of Kenya that is going around trying to see how research institutions, university, feed into the BPO sector in terms of bringing on board the fintech companies, the fintech innovators who want to develop, innovate, come up with research ideas that will lead into the productive sectors of the economy. So that is actually...
C'est une forme d'incubateur alors?
Yes, so we're doing incubation. Yes, we're doing. And maybe to point out something that we're doing again as ESC, we've redefined the ZES in the region. So to us, we have those core areas where investments enjoy set of incentives, but then within the zone, we allow for co-location of innovators who do not necessarily require any tax incentives and have a restriction on market access because of the tax incentives, but they can co-locate within an area where there will be development. So we have those areas where players come together to build the body of knowledge around research and innovation that will grow into productive units of the zones.
Merci infiniment. C'est fantastique. Ça veut dire en fait que le fait de mettre en place des zones économiques spéciales, notamment dédiées à la technologie, à la biotechnologie, aux nouvelles technologies, ça permet de ramener de l'expertise sur le continent, ça permet de rapprocher des expertises mondiales de notre continent, ça permet d'y mettre nos jeunes pour leur permettre d'apprendre des meilleurs dans le monde, ça permet de leur faire des stages, ça permet de les incuber à côté de leaders qui peut-être viennent du monde entier pour s'installer, ça permet de les développer et de fournir à notre marché des compétences de rang mondial. C'est fantastique ce qui se passe. Et là, est-ce que c'est parce que c'est une zone dédiée à la technologie que c'est plus simple de faire ça? Est-ce que vous recommanderiez qu'en Afrique, on ait des zones économiques comme ça spéciales dédiées à l'installation d'entreprises technologiques? Est-ce que c'est une recommandation?
In fact, from inception, Kansas City has been touted as the Silicon Savannah, the African Silicon Savannah, because that is the aspiration we had as a country.
Wonderful.
So we have that plan, and then we say, to leverage on the tax incentive that SEZs provide, then how can we enhance and grow and expand this, the African Savannah? So it's a joint kind of initiative from what we're doing as in the ICT platform and what now the SEZs have to offer. So we're marrying two critical government projects where we're having the ICT bit and the SEZ coming together to provide that. And that again is supported by the fact that the government has put in a lot of resources towards innovation and technology in a way that my friend from Djibouti even pointed out that we have some of those softwares that people do trading with within the region. You will find they originate from Kenya. Startups like mobile money, M-Pesa, again, is a startup innovation from Kenya. And with that realization that the government says, then how do we ensure that we have a proper framework where other good products can come out of? So it's a direct, deliberate push by the government, supported by the infrastructural development. We've put in a lot of fiber optic connectivity within the region. We put in a lot of utilities, infrastructure around our zones, just to promote the other aspect of innovation, because we know innovation will be the driver for the next, the fourth industrial revolution. So we're ready for it. And that tied to the CFTA agenda, then we feel that we will have a lot in terms of the market that needs to be serviced, the opportunities that the SFTA will bring for us in Africa. So we're just setting up the platform in readiness for the biggest opportunity that will be now.
Thank you. You want to have a reaction on this? And then I will ask the floor for one single question.
Merci à notre confrère du Kenya. C'est bon? Donc, il faut toujours penser et garder à l'esprit que l'objectif, c'est que ces zones économiques spéciales puissent vraiment catalyser, renforcer le développement socio-économique de nos pays d'abord, ensuite de tous les continents. Et il n'est pas souvent aisé de refaire ce qui a été fait bien. Donc le copier-coller d'ailleurs nous fait perdre souvent du temps. Et je pense qu'il est intéressant de voir, comme vous l'avez dit tout à l'heure, le momentum à travers le secrétariat, de voir ce qui a été fait bien dans d'autres pays et spécialiser ces zones économiques spéciales. C'est-à-dire que s'il y a davantage comparatif en ce qui concerne la logistique et les transports, et c'est un hub naturel Djibouti, donc toutes les solutions qui permettraient à la ZLECAf de mener à bien l'intégration du marché, en ce qui concerne la logistique et les transports, pourraient être menées en co-création avec les solutions d'ailleurs, des autres zones économiques, avec bien sûr les opérateurs ici. Parce que souvent, il s'avère qu'il y a des zones économiques spéciales qui font l'accès sur tout ce qui est technologie, mais tout en sous-estimant l'employabilité. Donc il y a une espèce de... les moyens mis en avant, par exemple au Maroc, il y a l'automobile de Tanger, la collègue de Tanger, mais ça ne crée pas suffisamment d'emplois. C'est tellement l'emploi est très qualifié que les gens autour n'en bénéficient pas. Donc l'objectif, attention, l'Afrique a souvent perdu les autres révolutions. La révolution dans laquelle nous sommes, c'est celle qu'il ne faut surtout pas perdre. Donc il faut, dans ce cas-là, se spécialiser, aller en groupement, faire en sorte que ce qui a été fait bien au Kenya soit reproduit bien, tout en sachant qu'aujourd'hui, la technologie, elle est devenue démocratique. Il y a beaucoup de solutions qui sont données versées dans le domaine public par l'Office mondial de la protection intellectuelle. Donc il ne s'agit pas de ressasser et de copier les choses qui ne marchent pas. Attention au contexte, faisant en sorte qu'il y ait de l'impact sur le plan local tout d'abord.
Merci pour tout. Une question, une seule question. Et pour vous montrer qu'on a bien fini, je change de place, je retourne au pupitre. Comme si je venais pour conclure. Only one question, no question, one question. Alors, la dame a levé la main et ce sera la seule question. C'est vous la dame. Vous ne voulez plus?
Elle a préféré céder à une autre personne.
D'accord, ok. Alors, on donnera la parole au monsieur.
Thank you very much. My name is Isaac Hubert. I know that the capital requirement for SCZ companies or to operate in an SCZ is very high. In some countries, the capital requirement is about $1 million. So I want to know to what extent are the SMEs participating in the free zones?
Merci. Alors, la question est quand même assez claire. Est-ce qu'il y a des barrières financières à l'entrée? Donc, je pense que ça sera... vous allez parler et puis on va écouter notre ami du Kenya.
In terms of investments, it's around $70,000 capital investment. If you want to set up a company, an enterprise within the free zone, and a company with many shareholders, it's around 140,000. Most of the huge majority of the free zone, the companies within the free zone are SMEs. You know, you have a few multinational companies, quite a decent amount, but most of them are SMEs, already incorporated within our free zones here in Djibouti.
Thank you. The Kenya Authority.
Thank you for that question. For Kenya, we don't have a minimum investment threshold. All application and all applications coming into the authority are evaluated based on their own merit. So, what are your numbers in terms of the employment you're proposing to create? What are the impacts to the local market, the backward linkage to the local economy? And so then we try to really get the very best out of the SMEs. Then other than that, as I pointed out earlier, then we have two category clusters of investment in SEZ, those that will enjoy tax incentives, and then those that are just co-located because they offer services to the SEZs. So we basically want to see the very best without having a cutoff, because the same reason why you've asked is why we don't really, because we don't want to lock in anybody based on a threshold that is maybe $1 million. So we want to have a discussion with the investor to know, other than the money you're putting in, what are the impacts that the government will expect to get from you? If you're in a sector that has an impact to the community and to the village, why will government not want to facilitate that to ensure that you make value for yourself and make value for government? So that is how we do it in Kenya. Thank you.
Merci. Thank you. Thank you. OK. C'était la seule question. Et la dernière, donc, je vais tout à l'heure donner la parole au vice-président, mais je vais d'abord conclure, parce que comme souvent ces prises de parole sont enflammées, Donc, je ne veux pas qu'on m'interrompe moi, mais je veux qu'on l'interrompe lui. Donc, je vais faire d'abord ma conclusion et ensuite lui donner la parole parce qu'il n'a eu une seule prise de parole. La question sur l'innovation et la technologie, c'est important et on se rend compte avec cet échange que déjà, pour renforcer la compétitivité des zones économiques spéciales, il faut de la technologie. Ça a été le cas avec Djibouti. Le temps de traitement des dossiers s'est raccourci grâce au système qu'ils ont mis en place pour renforcer la compétitivité du port. Mais en dehors de la compétitivité du port, il nous explique qu'il y a également, on l'apprend avec le Kenya, la possibilité de dédier des zones économiques spéciales à la technologie, qui permet de rapprocher du pays non seulement des compétences internationales, des financements internationaux, mais également de rapprocher tout cela des jeunes que l'on forme dans les écoles, dans les centres d'excellence professionnelle qu'on forme pour pouvoir les mettre en contact avec ces technologies. Et puis, bien sûr, n'oublions pas le fait que quand on établit une zone de ce type, il y a tous les talents qui doivent venir y travailler, tous les talents qui doivent être formés et l'impact qu'il y a, selon votre conseil, sur les populations qui sont alentours. Donc, comment on fait pour y travailler? L'autre point, c'est qu'est-ce que la ZLECAf peut faire? Je pense que c'est une question qui a été traitée. Là, dans ce que vous disiez tout à l'heure, une responsabilité peut-être de la zone de libre-échange continentale africaine, c'est d'abord d'organiser ce genre de forum pour qu'on sache ce qui se passe, mais également de nous aider avec les investissements. Le Kenya disait tout à l'heure qu'ils ont dû investir massivement. Bon, je ne demande pas à la zone d'investir, peut-être que c'est prévu, mais au moins de le mettre en plaidoyer pour faciliter au niveau continental des investissements dans les infrastructures. Les États également doivent investir massivement dans les infrastructures pour faciliter ce développement des technologies et surtout des talents dans le domaine technologique. L'autre question, c'était de savoir est-ce que l'IA et toutes ces technologies sont prises en compte parce qu'on ne veut pas être derrière. La réponse est oui. Une zone économique spéciale permet justement d'accélérer l'intégration de cette technologie au niveau de notre région. Voici à peu près les différents éléments que j'ai retenus. Je vais laisser la parole au vice-président. La jeunesse a envie de faire entendre sa voix. Est-ce que vous avez quelque chose à dire par rapport aux prises de parole qui ont été faites avant vous? Vous avez 1 minute, elle me regarde. Genre 60 secondes, quoi.
Bon, merci beaucoup. La jeunesse est un partenaire stratégique pour l'atteinte de nos objectifs principaux. Et cela, il faut passer inévitablement par les jeunes, les responsabiliser, les comprendre, les former, les orienter, les impliquer pour la construction. Et d'ailleurs, c'est ça l'Union panafricaine. Nous avons 2 activités majeures. Nous avons le ZES Africa, qui concerne des jeunes qui sont ni formés, ni éduqués, ni préparés. Et ce sont des jeunes qui innovent et on a besoin de ces jeunes qui puissent porter leur voix et leurs projets. Nous avons aussi Africa Startup Forum qui aura lieu en mois de juillet à Agadir pour retrouver plus de 1000 jeunes leaders inspirants, innovants pour construire et bâtir cette Afrique que nous voulons. Je vous remercie. L'impossible n'est pas africain. Osez rêver, construisons cette Afrique.
Merci beaucoup. Très bien. Comme il a tenu en 1 minute, ça me donne 2 minutes supplémentaires. Alors, qu'est-ce que nous souhaitons, vraiment? On veut beaucoup de start-up autour des zones économiques spéciales, des jeunes start-up. J'imagine que s'il y a des sociétés qui viennent s'installer, elles veulent à manger. Il faut des start-up qui fournissent la nourriture. J'imagine qu'elles ont besoin d'équipements, hein? D'argent, c'est ça? J'ai pas entendu. D'énergie. Il faut qu'on favorise, que ce soit une volonté délibérée de favoriser des start-up qui fournissent de l'énergie. Il faut que ces sociétés fassent, je sais pas moi, des paiements, apparemment des paiements de masse avec leurs employés. Il faut qu'on développe des start-up et qu'on les encourage à être à côté pour faire, on dit, vous travaillez avec cela. On fait ça, on s'arrange pour qu'elles travaillent avec cela. Il y en a qui veulent des chaussures, il y a une start-up spécialisée dans la livraison des chaussures, une plateforme, vous commandez les chaussures que vous voulez. C'est une start-up djiboutienne, kenyane, elle est là, elle s'occupe de ça. Il y en a d'autres qui veulent de l'eau, c'est pas tout le monde ne fait pas la même chose, on prend une start-up dédiée. Il y a une qui fait, je sais pas moi, le contrôle des vues, on prend une start-up dédiée. L'idée, c'est qu'on puisse avoir une multitude, mais que ce soit délibéré, de start-up qui se positionnent autour de l'écosystème. Alors, je prends des exemples comme ça, mais chaque pays doit pouvoir réussir à analyser et dire que pour nos zones, il faut qu'autour de nos zones, on ait une multitude de startups. Et puis vous avez des données. Voilà, les données. Moi, je pense qu'on peut créer des startups qui utilisent vos données comme matière première. Voilà, pour faire d'autres services.
On met déjà nos données à disposition des investisseurs, des
Oui.
startups aussi, pour identifier les marchés qu'ils veulent investir dessus.
Oui, ça vous le faites déjà.
Ouais.
Très bien. Mesdames et messieurs, nous avons fini avec ce panel. Merci infiniment. On avait 1 heure. On a réussi à faire panel, questions et tout ça. Merci à nos invités. Merci pour l'expérience du Kenya. Merci pour la jeunesse de l'Union africaine. Merci pour le Centre d'innovation de technologie. Merci également pour le Port Community System. Merci pour tout. Merci.
Et évidemment, on remercie également notre modérateur, M. Stéphane.
Vous êtes gentil.
On applaudit une dernière fois nos intervenants qui ont pu intervenir sur l'innovation, la technologie, on skills development, on leveraging our comparative advantage rather, and having an integrating strategy for commerce and economy. So on our next panel, we are going to be exploring the different types of mechanisms that the African Continental Free Trade Agreement can use. What do they have at their disposition to facilitate trade and commerce? So without further ado, it is with great pleasure that we invite our next moderator for this last panel of the day, Ms. Rebecca Nalumu, Director of Business Development and Investor Support at Uganda Special Economic Zone.
Is Rebecca still the moderator? Who's the new moderator? Okay, we have Rebecca here. Please introduce yourself to me.
We have a gentleman that just got up,
Okay.
I'm assuming.
I think we call Rebecca. She will come and then she will tell us who is going to replace her. That's amazing. No, we have decided that the moderator had so much to say that she should become a panelist to answer our questions. So that's why we shifted, but we still have her name on our papers. Now we have a new moderator and we give her a chance to answer questions because she has so much to say. So with Raiso, we're going to handle it. Do we have a new name?
We do. We've got a new name,
Man or women?
a man.
A man.
So ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause for our next and final moderator of today. We've got Mr. Godfrey Mutizwa, who is the editor for CNBC Africa.
Yeah. Please give him a bigger round of applause because we called another name than his name, and I hope you're not upset. You see, even the carpet says you are. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for your indulgence amidst our slight bit of miscommunication. So yes, my name is Godfrey Mutizwa. I'm a journalist. I'm based in Johannesburg. And I'm very happy to be in Djibouti for the first time. I think in all our spaces, all of us, in various ways, are thinking about what is happening in the world. I think all of us are trying to understand what President Donald Trump is trying to do in the United States. So let me give you my take on what I think he's trying to do. I think he is trying to remake the world global order that we've had since 1947. For those who are younger, let me remind you, from 1947 until 1995, world trade was governed by the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs. All of us who grew up in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, we knew about GATT, right? And then GATT was superseded, of course, by the World Trade Organization, which organization now is being trashed before our eyes. So, someone put it very succinctly. They said, President Trump is remaking the global world trade order that America made in 1947 in his own image today. So the question that is here before us, ladies and gentlemen, is, what do we do? Do we watch the remaking of the World Trade Order as it is happening before us, or are we going to be participants? Which is why in the morning, when there was that gentleman from Arise who spoke about us using this crisis well, I thought that resonated. The Secretary General also spoke about the importance, the critical moment that we are in today, to say how do we use this crisis to make sure that Africa is no longer a standby. So when I was preparing for the session, I tried to go back and try to find out when special economic zones were established. I found out the first ones were in the 1950s. The first one, actually, at Shannon, Ireland, in the 1950s. And here we are today, and we're saying we want to try to catch up. So for my panel, the question is, how do we use an instrument that we know has been successful in the past, successful today in 2025 and beyond? Let me introduce my panelists who are going to help me to answer this very, very important question. My order has gotten a little bit scrambled here. Give me a second. To help me to answer this question, first of all, we're going to have Mr. Felix Chege, the CEO of Real Sources Africa, to set the scene for us. Please help me to welcome him onto the stage.
Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, and fellow advocates for African prosperity, good afternoon. It is an honor to stand before you today in this vibrant city of Djibouti at this pivotal regional conference on special economic zones. We gather here with a shared vision to unlock the immense potential of the African Continental Free Trade Area and to explore the crucial role of special economic zones in making the vision a tangible reality. Earlier, in preparation for my presentation, I was reflecting on the very essence of our endeavor. A simple story came to mind, one my grandfather shared with me many years ago. He spoke of a hungry lion, driven by the primary need to survive, chasing a swift deer, equally desperate to evade its predator. Both creatures, in their own way, were running for their lives, perhaps even uttering a silent prayer. Both creatures, in their own way, uttering a silent prayer. The lion sought its sustenance, its daily bread, while the deer yearned for deliverance. My young mind wrestled with a question: whose prayer would be answered? My grandfather, in his own wisdom, didn't offer a theological decree. Instead, he spoke of the fundamental principles of life. He pointed out that the deer, by its very nature, was created with speed, a natural advantage. The lion, in turn, possessed strength. He wisely noted, "You don't quarrel God on why he created the leopard, but thank him for not giving it wings." And here came the heart of his wisdom. In the race between the lion and the deer, many times the deer wins. The lion runs for food, while the deer runs for its life. It is not about whose prayer God answered. It is about the purpose for which they are both running. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the purpose is more important than the deed. This simple yet profound analogy resonates deeply with our discussions on AFCFTA and the roles of the special economic zones. We as African nations are not merely running to fulfill a need for trade. We are running with a powerful purpose: to build a prosperous, integrated, and self-reliant continent. For too long, our markets have been dominated by external forces. The 1.3 billion strong market we speak of is not yet truly ours. It has been significantly shaped and occupied by others. Our purpose, therefore, must be to reclaim our economic destiny, to actively create the market that should rightfully belong to Africans. Today, we must ask ourselves, what unique value do our goods and services offer? Is it competitive pricing? Is it superior quality? Is it consistency of supply? Or is it to establish a robust retail space showcasing the uniqueness of our productivity in our continent? The story of the lion and the deer reminds us that survival often hinges on inherent strengths and strategies. Our special economic zones, strategically designed and effectively implemented, can be our inherent advantage in this continental race. They can be the fertile ground where African industries flourish, where value addition takes root, and where we move beyond being mere exporters of raw materials. We must finance our own industrialization. While we may embrace global technologies, the investment must come from within. We have the capacity, we have the innovation, and the determination to forge our own path to industrial advancement. At the heart of this endeavor lies a fundamental principle: demand, demand, demand. Production must be driven by demand. Demand is not just a static entity. It is the engine that propels our economies forward. We must be agile, responsive, and attuned to the evolving needs and preferences of our consumers. We cannot simply produce and hope for a market to materialize. We must actively cultivate and shape demand through innovation, quality, and strategic market access. Let us therefore, in our discussion, not just talk about trade, but about purpose. Let's not just discuss mechanisms, but about the strategic creation of demand and empowerment of African producers. Let us run with the purpose to build a truly integrated and prosperous Africa for ourselves and our fellow Africans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Felix. Felix and I met for the first time in Kigali, Rwanda, at the last Biashara conference, and it was another engaging conversation that we had. Allow me to introduce our panelists for this session. In no particular order, Mr. Mohammed Ali, his Director, Trade in Goods and Competition, AFCFTA Secretariat. Felix, you already have. Please, another round of applause for him, right? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yusuf Musa Dawale, Chairman, Chamber of Commerce, Djibouti. Ahmed Wasami, Director, Economic Affairs, Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation, Republic of Somalia. And I've been told our moderator, who has now become a panelist, Rebecca Nalumu, Director, Business Development, Investor Support, Uganda Special Economic Zone. Is she going to be joining us now, or is she going to be joining us later? She is coming. Applause for her, please. Thank you. I think I'm going to keep standing while we sort out our other logistics, yes. Okay, so let me pose the first question, if I may, to Mohammed from the FCFTA Secretariat, and ask the question. We are using, as I said in my opening remarks, an instrument that was developed in the 1950s. And at the same time, we are seeing the questioning of an order that is obtained in the world since the 1950s. I like the convergence. Let me get your opening thoughts in respect to how we use the SEZ concept appropriately in this environment, while at the same time making sure that we are not just being shaped by the events that are being developed elsewhere, but we are active participants.
No, thank you so much. Maybe before diving on how the AFCFTA tackled the SEZ, I want to maybe emphasize that regardless of the circumstances and everything that is happening around us in the world, I think from the inception, from the plan of boosting intra-Africa trade, I think we have a blueprint, we have a project that Africa is following and taking a serious and bold steps to implement it. And the key and maybe blueprint project for the Africa economic transformation is the AFCFTA. We have seen the AFCFTA being through the negotiation, the AFCFTA being upgraded from being only market access or a trade agreement that is only concerned about goods to have a giant maybe legal instrument that include instruments that speak about trading goods, trading service, competition, investment, digital trade, and most recently, women and youth in trade. So Africa has its own narrative, has its own agenda, regardless whatever happening in the world. I think what is being presented against Africa when it comes to tariffs, when it comes to maybe the newly introduced tariffs actually is not only being unfair to Africa, it is actually incorrect in the calculation of what is the relation or the economic relation with Africa, because scoping and making zoom on the trading goods aspect of the equation, first of all, it's missing the fact that most of the products that we are exporting, mostly it is crude oil and raw material that is by itself unfair for Africa, but also it is missing that, in fact, we are sending from Africa to the West, I think annually over 5 billion in transactions when you transact within Africa, missing the fees for digital trade, missing the fees on all the service sector. And maybe going back to your, or to the point of the SEZ specifically, the philosophy of trade agreements in general, when it comes to SEZ, varies, and the majority of trade agreements, they do not allow the product that is manufactured in a special economic zone to benefit from the preferential arrangement. That is not the philosophy of the AFCFTA. In the AFCFTA, we adopted the approach that fit Africa, that fit the African industrialization. In our case, we have seen a success stories in the special economic zones in Africa. So that's why we selected the model that suit Africa. We didn't follow the maybe the international norm by excluding the SEZ. So in the AFCFTA, our Council of Ministers adopted the special economic zone regulation that allowed the products of the SEZ to benefit from the AFCFTA. So meaning if you are operating here in a SEZ and you qualify or you maybe meet the rules of origin that has been set by the AFCFTA, your product can enter the AFCFTA market and benefit from the AFCFTA. That is huge selling point for the SEZ in Africa, and I think this is the trade policy approach for the AFCFTA to promote the SEZ in Africa.
Yeah, and I know it's early days yet, if I may say so, but I just wanted to get a sense from you in terms of how it has worked so far, that integration that you are attempting to bring, the innovation that you are introducing into this.
Early days when it comes to the regulation. I don't think it is early days when it comes to Africa adopting SEZ approach. We have seen that is building on this regulation. We have seen companies like Arise increasing their level of investment in Africa, taking advantage from this regulation. We have seen success stories, for example, in Gabon, transforming the economy of the country from maybe exporting raw material to exporting value-added products. So we have seen the effect and the promise that this regulation and this market access bringing to the investments in Africa.
Absolutely. I'm going to say to our business people, I'm going to skip you for now because I want to talk to the government people, the people who are doing the action on the ground. And if I can begin perhaps with you, not Mohammed, sorry, Ahmed. Let's start perhaps with the Somalia experience in respect to the special economic zones before we talk about how you've integrated them into the FCFTA.
Yes, thank you very much, Director of our panel. First of all, allow me to thank the people and the government of Djibouti. Their hospitality since we arrived yesterday, maybe some of the audience have had bad news from Somalia, but again, we have good news. If you look the economic policies the economic policy reform that our current government undertake in the last decades, we succeed to reform our debt relief. Now our debt is 6% of our total GDP, and that is very good positive compared to our LDC's countries. And also we have successfully joined East African Community, which is one of the most integrated regional economic in the continent. And again, we are part of AFCFTA. We have signed but not yet ratified. We are also member of IGAD, and COMESA, and so on. Our government is going to take trade policy liberalization, and I think it is very good and positive compare other negative information that maybe you have had from Somalia. But if I come to your question, Director, yes, strategically Somalia locates a strategic position to the global, where we can connect Africa, Asia, and Europe, and also America, where Somalia has also the longest coastal line area in the continent, 3,333 kilometers square. And if you look the connectivity of global trade, the logistics, mostly we use ocean logistics, the sea. If we look the barriers that our continent is facing is basically take split the road. So we can connect from the north to south, and even from the south to the East African as a region. Somalia also took an economic policies that also support our special economic zone. And if you look, our government is structure, we have federal system, and we have almost more than 6 federal member states, where each member state has its own seaport, and also has their own special economic zone that connect within Africa, beyond Africa, to the global market. But again, also we have the challenges, because there is no challenges. Yes, we have challenges, particularly the fragmented legal, because we need our legal reforms also align with AFCFTA protocols, in particularly trading goods, investment protocol, and so on. But again, also, we have also challenged on infrastructure, because we don't have railways that can connect from Somalia to Central Africa to West Africa. So we have had challenges, and also we have an opportunity. Thank you. That's our experience. Thank you so much.
Interesting. Thank you very much indeed. Rebecca, if I can come to you and ask your input as well, experience in terms of obviously building these special economic zones. And again, I'm going to come later and ask the question around how we build the FCFTA in the whole special economic zones strategy.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. If I may share the Ugandan experience, we, like the Shannon Free Zone, we started with a scheme that was purely export processing in nature. And the export processing zone, which we were looking at the time, way back in 2014, was intended to ensure that the companies that want to operate within the export processing zone must have the capacity to produce, to add value, and export more than 80%. But the dilemma over the years that we experienced was that we had export processing zones that were purely producing for international markets. And if we reflect on our performance, we noted that not much of what was being produced in these zones was going into the African market. Most of it was going to the EU, to the US, to Asia, to mention but a few. But the other dilemma we noticed with the export processing zone, which was really the traditional kind of scheme that was implemented earlier many years ago, was that it was not also enhancing backward linkages. The scheme was in such a way that it allowed operators within the zone to import. And what were they importing? They were importing high-value products. They were importing high-tech intermediate inputs, agricultural equipment, fabric, and others. So we noted that there was not clear integration of the small and medium enterprises. There was not clear integration of the local clusters around the zones which had capacity to supply, but they were missing out. They were the missing middle. So we evolved in line with, because the export processing zone scheme is anchored within the East African community. There was a demand that companies that were operating in this scheme, as we integrated more under the East African community, their market was narrowing. Because when we say export, if, say, an export processing zone sold its products within the ESC, that would be, or the East African community, that would be a local sale. It would then be categorized as an export. Yeah. So we had to evolve with the times, with the needs, with the need to integrate, with the need to promote cross-border investments. We had to actually migrate from the export processing zone model to the free zone, to the special economic zones, which we are now promoting. Thanks again to the East African community, because under the East African community, we were able to to adopt a special economic zone policy which integrates the entire ESC in terms of the policies, in terms of the schemes that you can develop as a private company. So the scheme evolved from just being export processing to integrating service-related economic zones. You can now set up tourism zones. You can set up financial zones. You can set up science and technology zone. In fact, you can also set up agricultural zones or livestock and many other types of schemes.
And that's interesting because if you remember, the gentleman from Arise in the morning spoke about the importance of integrating the local economies, and you are already implementing it. Is it working better?
Yes, it is working better, and this is why. We have seen a migration from just having single factories. If we look at the studies that have been done by UNCTAD, much as the reports are saying there are 200 special economic zones, when you actually analyze the types of zones, most of them are single factories. So that is where we started in the past. So now we are looking into evolving into special economic zones, which will help the African continent put up large scale. We are talking about large scale, not single factories, but large scale zones that have an interplay between production, between processing, between services to create an interface where there is you live, you work, and play. Where you have the industry benefiting from agriculture and also benefiting from services. So clearly within the AFCFTA, within the special economic zone, we are moving into the right direction.
Yeah, and I think it's an important question to address because we're talking about here instruments that were set up as national policy now being taken into to perform a role that feeds into an international framework in the sense of the AFCFTA. So we're going to come back and ask how we do that. Yusuf, if I can come to you from an experience perspective as well as perhaps your first take in terms of how we ensure that these instruments are actually practically making a difference on the ground.
Merci beaucoup. Avant de répondre à votre question, j'aurais suivi les mêmes, je dirais, réflexions que le jeune vice-président qui est parti du panel précédent. On parle de l'intégration économique, on parle de Continental Free Trade Agreement et on parle de comment mettre en place une intégration qui réussit. Je pense qu'il est, à mon avis, d'abord essentiel de trouver des solutions à apporter sur la base même des éléments qui pourraient faciliter cela. Quand un Djiboutien part pour aller à Nairobi, s'il dort une nuit à Addis Abeba, ce n'est pas une intégration. Quand on va au Zimbabwe ou on va en Afrique du Sud, s'il faut passer par 36 chemins, c'est encore une difficulté. S'il faut prendre le franc Djibouti d'ici et qu'on va à Nairobi pour changer le shilling kenyan, ce n'est pas une vraie intégration continentale. Donc tout cela est lié, c'est des problématiques liées à ce qu'il y ait une vraie intégration et sortir de ces problématiques. C'est ça qui permettra à ce que l'économie continentale puisse, je dirais, avancer et faire valoir. Autre chose qui est très importante, juste une remarque, si l'objectif est de sortir de l'autarcie ou de l'autonomie, je dirais, des pays autres qu'africains, il faut que le budget vienne des pays africains. Nous avons l'Union africaine, malheureusement, est supportée par l'Union européenne ou les États-Unis d'Amérique. Le programme du secrétariat de Continental Free Trade Agreement est supporté en partie par l'Union européenne. Donc cela ne nous permettra pas d'être autonomes et indépendants, je trouve, en tout cas pour ma part. Si je reviens à tout à l'heure, il y a le directeur qui disait que nous faisons des opérations de 5 milliards d'opérations entre Africains. C'est un bon début, 5 milliards de dollars. Donc, ces 5 milliards de dollars, si on donnait 5 dollars par transaction financière, ça pourrait non seulement faire fonctionner l'Union africaine dans son ensemble, mais aussi les secrétariats de la zone de libre-échange économique. Et ça permettrait d'être africain à 100%. Si je reviens à votre question, le secteur privé africain a besoin d'une clarté. Nous avons besoin d'une vision claire. Vous venez à Djibouti, il y a une règle. Vous allez en Éthiopie, il y a une autre règle. Vous allez en Somalie, c'est une autre règle. Peut-être l'East African Community commence à s'organiser, ou West African Communities ou SADC s'organisent autrement, mais il y a une dispersion ou disparate des textes et des règlements. Et ça, les opérateurs n'aiment pas. Vous allez aujourd'hui aux Émirats arabes unis, vous vous installez dans une zone, comment on appelle ça, zone franche. Vous avez les mêmes avantages si vous êtes à Dubaï, à Abu Dhabi, ou à Ajman, ou à Sharjah.
Sure.
Et voilà le problème là où il est. Donc il faut, à mon avis, qu'il y ait une solution commune, une réflexion commune.
Yeah. I think you have given us a lot to chew there. And I think maybe, luckily or happily for you, President Donald Trump is solving your problem for us, because he is cutting back on that support that we've taken for granted through the years. Even the EU as well, European governments are cutting back on aid and saying, hey, we need to focus on our defense more. So maybe part of your challenge has been sorted. But you have raised a number of important issues there. You're talking about the harmonization, and I think the FCFTA Secretariat has got to be talking about that without question, and I'm sure they would love to answer part of those questions. And you're talking about the funding issue as well as, of course, the infrastructure that we require in order to be able to move these goods across our borders. Let me begin first from an ECZ perspective, from a Djibouti perspective. Are you finding it easier to get into the regional markets using the SEZ concept? Because that was the problem that I think we were told was solved by the African trade ministers in 2023 in February, if I'm not mistaken. Very quickly, if you can, before we go to Felix.
Yeah, if I just mention concerning how it's organized, for example, the free zones in Djibouti is completely different from the special economic zones. Here in the free zone that we have, you can implement and put in place different types of activities. It might be trade, it might be industry, it might be, let's say, the services. And in terms of special economic zones, it's something that we have got a clear industry items. For example, if it is agro, it's agro. If it is, chemical, it's chemical. But here in Djibouti, it's different. That's one. Second, we don't have any taxes. We have 0 taxes in Djibouti. That it's very important. Sure. In the special economic zone, you have to pay some, let's say, the percentages for the countries, if my memory is good. This is the difference between. And Djibouti have got another advantage that we have got since 1949. We are linked with the dollar since 1949. It means that you don't have fluctuation of currency. If you invest here in Djibouti 1 billion, you need tomorrow to take out from Djibouti to anywhere in Zambia or in Senegal, you can. Nobody can ask you whatever it is and how much you get it or how you take it out with your authorization, with the authorization of the administration. But some other countries in Africa is different. That's the standards that we have to put in place and give chance for each and every country to have the same level of businesses. That will give more intra-African, let's say, dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in part, again, I think the FCFTA Secretariat will come to you and say, this is the reason for the Pan-African payment systems that's been put in place to ensure that we take out that currency risk that you're talking about, the costs associated with it. Felix, if I can come to you, I've made you listen to everybody else because you made everybody listen to you as well. But I want your thoughts just in respect to the practical experience, and you have been a trader. You are part of the Guardian Trade Initiative. So perhaps if you can give us your opening thoughts to how you have seen it work, and then we move on to talking about how we can make it work better. Because you were sharing with me earlier part of your frustration where you are almost put in a situation where you are supposed to carry goods before you know what your customer wants.
Thank you so much. Maybe first I can give a brief background of what we do at Real Sources. So Real Sources Africa is basically a trade facilitation entity powered as a trading company on behalf of Kenya to the African Continental Free Trade Area. And our main role as a trading company is basically trade facilitation. I summarize ourselves in three main pillars. Our main KPI is how many containers are we moving at a time, how many contracts are we signing, either forward contracts for supply or for distribution. At the same time, how much of trade finance are we supporting our SMEs and our cooperative societies access? From an SEZ perspective, I think we have to rethink on a couple of things. Number one, are the products that we are championing to have production done in the special economic zones, are they in demand within the African context? One of the biggest challenges that I've experienced as a trader, and I'm talking as a trader who's been an SME, a youthful SME, to the AFCFTA Secretariat. One of the biggest challenges I've realized is that sometimes we don't produce towards the market that we're targeting. Last year, we rolled out a program whereby we are doing 1,000 containers of products within the African continent for a period of 12 months. We rolled out in November. As of today, we've done around 217 containers. And one of our biggest challenges has been, one, people don't understand what we are producing. People don't even know some of the products that we are saying we have as a continent. And an example would be, people don't know that Kenya has one of the largest helmet manufacturing plant in the entire continent.
Oh. And
these are conversations that you get helmets that are coming all the way from China. Yeah. And so many African countries are importing helmets from China, where else we have a production entity in Kenya that can do so. At the same time, you get to a point whereby, as I mentioned earlier, demand. If we are setting up plants or setting up special economic zones reacting to a demand of a certain product, investment will follow that particular demand. Sure. One of the things that most SMEs scramble with, we all talk about trade finance, or we all talk about infrastructure finance.
Sorry, but before you go there, we need to clarify this issue of understanding what your customer wants. And I wanted to bring in the Intra-African Trade Fair and ask the question, in your view, is it not doing the work that is required that would help you to connect you to customers who want the products that you have? Because at the IATF, you go and you exhibit, right?
That's one of the solutions.
That's one solution.
No, intra-Africa trade will not be attacked by only trade fairs or diplomacy. We will need to go to the market, understand what these people want from the market, and our ambassadors in some of these markets, one, we have distributors who already exist in the market. These are the people who provide the products on the shelves for the consumers to be able to take. The question is, why are they not buying our products? One of the biggest conversations I've had with some of our distributors from DRC is for Kenyan products in particular. They always accuse us of not being consistent in supplying. Another thing they'll always accuse us is that, the branding aspect, whereby you'll come in as a distributor, support the manufacturer in introducing your product in the market, and then 5 months down the line, I have another supplier with a similar product in the market. Different brand. There's aspects they want exclusivity. Is it the high time we start talking about contract manufacturing? At the same time, you have a challenge of logistics. But the elephant in the room, we will set up the infrastructure that we want to invest in. But is our infrastructure based on the demand that is being created in the market? And I give an example. If today we were to do a road, and I use this on a village perspective, you have a beautiful village, you want to do a road from the village to town to be able to carry your fresh produce. See, it's much more valuable saying that we are trying to do the road or tarmac the road to be able to take the vegetables from the village to take to the market. Because if you don't have the vegetables to carry from the village to take to the market, then that investment is not really making sense.
Sure. And I think you are going some way in helping to answer as well as ask the question that I posed earlier around aligning the special economic zones policies to the continental body and framework that is the African Continental Free Trade Area. Because now we are talking about these instruments that were set up for the national cause, as she said earlier, designed to export, but now we are saying we want to integrate it within the African framework. So I'm going to go back to Mohammed and ask, please feel free, everybody, to come in and chip in as well in how we can answer this question. How do we square the circle, as it were? You get my point? The issue of special economic zones, which are developed at a national level, aligning them to the African Continental Free Trade Area, a framework that covers the whole of the African continent, and we're saying the two must work together. How do we do that? Are we doing that?
Okay. Are we doing that? I think the answer is that we are in the process. You will never reach to a stage or a situation where you say we have done enough and let's move on. So it is a work in progress. The second point I want to make, it is never for the AFCFTA as a continental project to prescribe every single aspect of the national intervention or the national policy around SEZ. Because SEZ for Djibouti means something different from the SEZ to Gabon, means something different for Uganda or Nigeria or what so on. It depends on the natural resources or the national input that is available for the country, the geographic location for Djibouti, for example, the model of free economic zone or free zone work for Djibouti. It might not work for other countries. Sure. So that's why when we identified what we mean by these zones in the AFCFTA, we didn't follow the international standards by calling them free zone or industrial zone. We just call it special economic zone because it is different from a country to another. Now, how countries can build on this SEZ, it is simple and it is happening. You market yourself as a country to the rest of the world. Come and invest in my special economic zone and have access to other 54 African countries.
Yeah.
This is how you benefit from it. And you need also, the next step, you need to realize that when it comes to special economic zone under the AFCFTA, we don't have free bus for anything that is coming from outside to go through a free zone and enter our market. There is the rules of origin. And the rules of origin is the economic passport for the goods. So you need to have a minimum or a set of African input in the process, or you need to manufacture or do added value before you can say this is African product and can benefit from the market access that the AFCFTA is providing. So we need to build on that policy. So if you have the market that you should target, you should use this market to market your country, the investment in your country, and you need to have incentives that is scaling up the level of production, the level of value added. So that's how country need to design their internal national policies around the continental SEZ regulation.
Yeah, you've gone on to answer the next part of my question, which was going to be what tools can these countries use to make sure that their special economic zones are benefiting from the creation of the FCFTA. But Rebecca, you can come in as well, and I'd like you to come in as well and answer the question. When you are framing your policies around those special economic zones, are you thinking about the FCFTA? Please be candid.
Allow me to touch a little bit on the submission we got from Mr. Chege. I think that issue of information sharing and the aspect of stakeholder partnerships or PPPs, both nationally within the region, I think needs to be enhanced. And this is how. When I talk about the stakeholder partnerships, we need to see the roles of governments enhanced. We have, within at the national level, we have the ministries of trade. We have export promotion councils. We have, again, the special economic zone authorities. I think more collaboration, working with the trading companies, as they do their work of creating a connection or linkages between the producers and buyers, could take advantages of economic and commercial diplomacy. We have these embassies, which in respective partner states, which could be the points of contact. If you're producing, if the trading companies are aggregating goods for the SMEs, how can we work with the embassies in those countries where they're targeting to export, to make sure that they reach out to this buyer who needs the product that they're making? Or how do you work with the export promotion councils? Because that's their work, to find markets. So instead of looking for markets in EU, instead of looking for markets in US or Asia, why aren't we using these embassies? Why don't we create within, say, the special economic zone authorities, the AFCFTA desks that can work very closely with these trading companies to ensure that, yes, there is that connectability between what you're producing and the market where you're selling. So again, I think within the AFCFTA, these tools have been put in place for us. But how should we use them innovatively to make sure that we fully support the private sector to benefit? Otherwise, the tools will be there, but we're not using them. So we need to work more innovatively and see how we use the existing frameworks within the strategies. Of course, the other aspect of sector prioritization will matter within our respective national development plans. We need to come up with sectors and prioritize those sectors where we are sure we have the capacity to produce, but also we have the capacity to export and also diversify into the markets where we would want to sell. So again, I want to emphasize the aspect of stakeholder collaborations, right? Working with the national policies, working with the ministries at the national level, then see how we integrate them, working with the AFCFTA Secretariat to ensure that the products that are produced within the special economic zones, clearly we can find buyers from respective countries within the Africa continent.
Absolutely. You're helping me ask another question around these special economic zones and building regional value chains, because that's part of the whole integration of Africa project, isn't it? But let's park that question for now. I wanted you to come to answer my question that I asked in respect to what, from a government perspective, you need to do to align better with the FCFTA. Is that new structures of communication, or is that still through the ministries of trade?
To me, it will start with clearly at the national level, ensuring that the policies and the regulations that are in place are aligned. We have scenarios where, of course, the AFCFTA has provided us with the SEZ regulations, but within certain state parties, the national policies have not yet been aligned to fit within the AFCFTA protocols and also some of these tools and mechanisms that have been developed. Then again, I would like to talk about the fact that within our respective partner states, we need again to evolve from leaving investment in the special economic zones to purely private. We need to come in as a government to support the private sector by ensuring that we provide the enabling infrastructure that connects to these special economic zones that are set up especially by the private sector. We know the importance of the strategic locations, but also within, sometimes within the state parties or at the national level, we have scenarios where the private sector has invested and the marketability of the special economic zones in terms of attraction has not been enforced, as governments have not extended the enabling infrastructure, and yet again within the AFCFTA we have enabling tools like the adjustment fund, where we can source some of this funding to provide the necessary logistics. So that support from government needs to be enhanced. But also, I would say an element of capacity building is required because some of these tools are available, but there's an information gap where we have not been able to educate the private sector on some of these opportunities that have come into play to make sure that the private sector or special economic zones actually benefit from these tools. So we need to step up on the capacity building.
Absolutely. Ahmed, if I can come to you. Yes.
Thank you very much. I think your question is a very good question, and I would like to focus on, if you look the special economic zone in Africa, and if you look our legal professions at AFCFTA level, this SES is mainly focused on, have relationship with the protocol in trading goods, the protocol on investment, and the protocol on competition. So as a partner state, we need that we respect the driving principles of the agreement, which is the non-discrimination. So we do need that our special economic zone must respect policies, must respect the FCFTA, most favored nation, and the national treatment, where we treat all equal treatment. Second point is the rules of origin. As the director of trading goods just mentioned it, products have also passport, as we have passport, so that they enjoy the preferential tariff. So our special economic policies has also made FCFTA rules of origin so that they comply and have that treatment or on preferential tariff. Another thing also is subsidization and also incentives roles. We also need that our investment incentives offered to our special economic zones must comply our competition, AFCFTA competition protocol. And last but not least is the customs procedures and the trade facilitation that our special economic zone policies. We need that our customs procedures should be digitalized so that we overcome the challenge of non-tariff parities. And that's why we have NTB portal and at AFCFTA level. So that was my input. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. I'm going to give you the last word in terms of the rounds on these questions before we open up the floor to the floor, so we can get input of the others as well.
The question concerning how it might be the, let's say, the special economic zones for Africa, I think it's in my perspective or in my opinion, the Secretariat of AFCFTA was being created by the head of states. Head of states must sit together, see the opportunities for the continental free trade agreement that they sign, and put in place a common interest for all, let's say, the countries who are interested on this issue. And I'm sure that today everybody is interested, except the one who forget it. Just to give you one example.
Yeah.
I was been in Durban 2 years back, participating 2 years or 3 years back. Yes.
IATF.
Yes,
Durban, yes.
yes, at that time. And I was discussing with one company who is exporting sugar. They said that they export 95% of the goods to US.
Sure.
Well, and they don't have any interest for Africa. I hope that what Trump done will give opportunity for the business community in Africa. And I call the same company now.
Yeah.
They are interested to talk. That's one of the reasons why intra-African activities will increase substantially.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that in 2 or 3 years, if Trump continue the way that he started, that is good for the business of Africa. I'm sure that the trade for Africa will be 50%.
Absolutely, absolutely. A very important point that you mentioned. Let's certainly hope that this crisis makes us open our eyes and look at ourselves before we begin to look outside. I'm going to open the debate to the floor. The rules still apply. Identify yourself, your organization, and if you can be a better question framer than me, all the better. Do we have a microphone roving around? Yes, we do. Do we have any questions, contributions, comments? I think everybody is satisfied with the way we have run the debate so far, right? Okay. While you're thinking about your questions, if you do have a question indeed, I'm going to come back and ask the question of how do we, he raised the issue of harmonization, and I'm going to take that issue of harmonization a little step further and ask it around how we frame harmonization in respect to competition. Because for me, that's one of the big challenges, isn't it? Because we've got countries that are trying to take advantage of their resources and their position to try to attract investment to themselves. But at the same time, you have a framework that is saying, can't we find a way of trading amongst each other so that we increase intra-African trade from the below 20% we're talking about now to the 50% that you would like? Anyone want to take up my question, please, gentlemen? Yes, please, go right ahead.
Thank you. In terms of competition, I look at it a bit more differently. You see, each and every African country has something that they're known for. There's something they're really good at. And my take is, why can't we invest more in some of these resources that are already available in some of these countries, and we in other markets can be the recipient as we also produce something else to be the recipient to other kind of countries. I don't believe more in competition, but I believe more in the complementing of each other. We don't need to produce each and everything separately as a continent, but we need to see how best can we have some countries in the continent doing, for example, pharmaceuticals. And we being the major off-takers of pharmaceuticals and supporting them. Why can't we have other regions to support in terms of value addition of food? And an example would say East Africa is, it's rich in terms of agro-produce. Why can't we say that East Africa will feed the entire continent in certain areas?
So the key player here is the FCFTA Secretariat.
Yes. And the conversation should be, if we are able to get a way to get some of these countries to just focus on exactly what they're able to do at the best, and others can focus on different kind of space, and then we can meet each other in the market with products that are much more valuable for us to be able to support the entire continent.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so maybe I will try to complement what Mr. Felix said and actually recall what he said earlier about sometimes we produce a product that is not required, or we don't know what is the needs of other countries. And I will make 2 points. The first point is, what is the AFCFTA bringing to the new the equation in Africa? If you look for East Africa as an example, the majority of East African countries, they produce more or less, or the major production for them is more or less the same, whether it is coffee or tea. So they don't have what we call comparative advantage when they deal with each other. When you bring the AFCFT to the equation, now you introduce the East to the West, and to the north and to the south. So instead of getting the coffee or the Nescafe from Europe, you get directly the coffee from East Africa, or you can get the cocoa powder or the chocolate directly from West Africa. So that is not competition. It is comparative advantage of two partners who can complement each other. That is a very simple example, but that's happening to some extent in all sectors. The second point, you heard Felix speaking about the trading companies concept. And we heard in the morning Arise speaking about also the ATDC, which is the Continental Trade and Distribution Company. And the main philosophy behind the trading companies, it was initiative of the AFCFT Secretariat. We invited all the countries to nominate one company that work as an aggregator. And the philosophy behind that is to be able to aggregate from the SMEs, but the most important part is, if you are a trading company, you should be able to import and export. And by creating a network, Felix, and that happened actually, has a contact of...
He needs to answer the question actually whether he also imports, right?
Yes. Has a contact with a trading company, for example, from Egypt or from South Africa. You say, I'm interested in getting pasta from this country, but I have a product also I want to sell. So they negotiate their bargaining power. They let their bargaining power work out. And once you create this network, you complement what has been said about the embassies, because the embassies, they are diplomats, they can do that much, but you need to be able to speak to account. So we are trying to create a network between the trading companies. It is one of the solutions.
Sure.
And there is one thing I want to respond to you. The AFCFTA is not the AFCFTA Secretariat. The AFCFTA is all of us. So it is a project. Everyone here is the AFCFTA. We are the AFCFTA Secretariat. We're sitting in the center trying to maybe create some initiatives, design some policies, but the AFCFTA responsibility is for everyone on all levels. So,
Absolutely. I'm going to see if there's another question. You wanted to come in and answer my question. And I wanted to actually add another layer to a question that he raised earlier around contract manufacturing. But I'll hold it for now. Please come in.
Before I reply to your question, I just want to mention also what is very important is the skill. We was talking to, previously the skill, how to train them, and how to make possible for the training. We have here in Djibouti a center of training for logistic and maritime activities, built by the private sector and the PPP, between private sector. And today, we are exporting the drivers that we train this center to the Arab countries, like GCC countries. To tell you that if we couldn't get some jobs for our people, we have to train them and export them. If I come back to your question, how it might be, let's say, good that, as he said, my brother, FCFTA is a project, is a vision. It's, I think, one of the successful, let's say, implementation that Africa must take care. And the way that we have to put in place our policy, it's to try making the union. Not each and every country must make his own, how we can say, law or...
There must be coordination.
We must be in coordination. And the role of the Secretariat is to put in place every year in one region. For example, we are in the East African region now. We must see what we have as advantage or disadvantage of AFCFTA. And what is disadvantage for the AFCFTA East African region must be, how we can say it, corrected or try to make it possible to, how we can say it, readjusted.
Sure.
But if we keep as it is,
Yeah.
and Uganda do whatever he want to do, and Djibouti do whatever
Yeah.
he want to do,
Yeah.
we will never success on our integration.
Absolutely. You need to answer the question around whether it's not just enough to be an exporter, you also need to be an importer, Felix. Oh, you want to answer it? Yeah, go for it. But
Yeah,
it was raised to him, yeah.
I just want to add my point concerning, for example, for the import and export. The issue that we have today in intra-African
Yeah.
is we are importing all from abroad. We have to, as I said, we have to find a solution that we put in place this strategy that, for example, the East Africa or intra-African or continental, in continental ways, we can export.
Yeah.
For example, we have coffee. You know that the coffee of Ethiopia was being stored in Hamburg port? Because Hamburg is the center of the coffees in the world.
Yeah, I have heard that story as well, how the coffee we're consuming in South Africa is coming from Belgium or one of the European ports, and yet it's not coming directly from us, from Hamburg, you say. Yeah. Absolutely. Felix?
Yes, I'm an importer, exporter.
Okay. Is it easy? Does it work?
Yeah, it works quite, with the intervention of AFCFTA Secretariat, they really try to make things quite easy. At the moment, people are coming to understand the use of the AFCFTA Certificate of Origin. They have the e-tariff book that is now available for people to just check in the tariff rates.
Yeah.
They have a harmonized rules of origin. So at the moment, I think they're at the point whereby it's not creating much more awareness for people to be able to use these particular tools.
Yeah, yeah.
But just to add on, maybe what I feel would be the most practical, some of the practical things that can actually be taken up. I've worked a lot with SMEs in this particular space. And the cost of supporting an SME from scratch to becoming, to having them get some product that is ready to go to the market and then developing an export strategy is very expensive. I'd urge, how can governments regain back the glory that we had in cooperative societies? See, cooperative societies build a concept whereby they bring SMEs who have a similar goal together. And an example would be, let me use Uganda, for example. There's a lot of banana production in Uganda. And if we were to say that we've set up or we are willing to invest in a plant that will absorb all the banana produced in a certain region. You see, one thing you've solved a crisis from the market, from the farmer perspective or SME perspective, because the SME focuses on one thing only, production of the bananas.
Absolutely.
Whatever you do with the bananas after you take them is not the SME's problem. Because at the moment what is happening, we're giving the SME the headache of getting the raw material, value adding the raw material, taking the raw material to the market.
Yeah.
It might not be very practical, or it may not take up the motion as fast as possible. Yeah. But if we are able to get to a point whereby the SEZ that we are setting up, if we are able to involve our cooperative societies inside the SEZ setups, whereby let's finance them to be able to industrialize inside the parks themselves.
Yeah.
They will create the demand for the raw material, and we'll have an output of a product that will be at a certain value.
Solutions. Solutions is what we're looking for. You want very quickly to chip in, because I'm giving you the final mic.
Yes, just one input on export-import. I think to export at some products, you need also to import an intermediate import so that you produce final product and able to export to the market, whether it's Africa or beyond Africa. And I think if you look the impact of President Trump's tariff, it also affects the global supply chain and the global value chain.
Sure.
And I think this is also good for us in Africa to export and make our intra-Africa trade so that you also have the intermediate good within the Africa. before you go global and input. So that was my input. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed. Please help me to thank our panelists very much for a very, very interesting discussion. Rebecca, thank you for your time. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, Yusuf. Thank you, Felix. Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you for your time. And thank you to all of you for listening.
And let's also thank our moderator, of course, Mr. Emmanuel. For the panelists, if we can just have you stand over here for the picture. And for the audience, I think we can give them a better applause. So they have covered many themes with regards to value chain, with regards to stakeholder collaboration, delivering products that the market actually needs, and harmonizing policies that align with the AFCFTA. Today we had a very enriching, rich program. Tomorrow we do as well, starting with infrastructure that we're going to be discussing. We're also going to be looking at exploring investment opportunities and so much more. Tonight, we have a rendezvous at 7 p.m. for the cocktail. This is being hosted. This is a gift from the Ministry of Trade and Tourism, particularly our National Tourism Agency. So we hope to see you all here at 7 p.m. It will be towards the outdoor area, so towards the pool. Bring out your best outfits, and we will be dancing the night away. But we still have to go home early because we've got an early start for tomorrow also. Does that sound good? Are we good for the first day, day one? I can't hear you guys. Are we good? Finish off on a great note for day one? Great. Let's keep up that same energy for tonight. Thank you so much.